In the Canvas course site, in the modules is Assignment 6 Television Westerns as a PDF. There's also a zip file here that contains the images that I used in the project. You can download those and unzip it and add those into your project. There's also a text file called strings.txt that we'll use. Let's take a look at the PDF. So our project here is basically focused on working with images. We're going to create an app that presents images from famous TV westerns of the 1950s. And I have 9 buttons below that. You click a button and it shows the image from that TV western, as well as a little bit of information as a caption for that particular TV show. There's also an overview button that presents this information here. Just basically says that westerns were a popular genre in the late 1950s. I also use a background image and set the buttons to be semi-transparent using the ARGB color codes, so adding in that transparency channel, so 32-bit rather than 24-bit. Give you some information about why we're doing this project and how it aligns with the course. We're going to use HTML code also for our text, so we can do some bolding and some coloring of text. And then finally, we're going to change the app icon and the app's splash screen. Give you a few additional instructions. I changed the shell background color so it was tan rather than the traditional purple that comes out of the box for .NET MAUI. And then some tips, including a little bit of code that I used, such as to add in a shadow for our TV image. Then when you test, make sure you click each button and that you're getting the correct image and the correct text. So here's the file running on a iOS simulator, an iPhone 14, as well as a Samsung Galaxy S20 Android emulator. You'll notice a little bit of differences here in the pictures. Part of that's going to depend on the size of the device itself and its resolution. I actually used 2 different images here because when I used the same image for iOS on Android, the cowboy came pretty high. So if you look kind of carefully, there's more sky at the top here that I added in Photoshop. That's about the only difference. On each of these, we can click a button and see the image and the HTML text that accompanies it. And that text is in the form of a string text file in pairs of the TV show name, a vertical pipe, and the description. So I used a vertical pipe to delimit those string files. I like to use vertical pipes as a delimiter, so that allows the use of tabs and commas in the text. So each of these buttons work, and we have the overview. Same thing here on the Android side. So I'd like you to pause here, work on this on your own, and if you struggle, come back and see my code review that follows. Here's my code review of the TV Westerns project. I started by adding in all the images into the images folder, and on each one of those, or as a group, I changed the build action to MAUI image. I also added strings.txt into the raw folder and set its build action to MAUI asset. Then here's my XAML code. So on the content page, I added the title. I also added the shell.background and set it to tan. That's going to be the header at the top. So rather than the traditional purple, I wanted it to be tan. And then I set the background image to Cowboy 400 by 927 BG. On the Android phone, I changed that to the 400 by 927B. It's for the S20. Then I have a scroll view and a vertical stack, spacing, padding. I tried using a border and didn't get the results that I wanted, so I used a frame to wrap around the image that we're going to change. And so I gave it a shadow. I set the border color to black, made it a little bit larger than the image itself, so 320 by 320, that's actually really one of the keys, and gave it a background color of gray. So you get a fine line border of black and then a background color of gray. I was kind of trying to simulate the bezel of an old TV. Then we have our image, and I set the name of the image to IMG photo. We're going to refer to that in code. The source is our TV Western 00 title. Set the aspect to aspect fit and gave it a width and height of 300. Have a label under that named LBL info. Gave it some text. Font size is caption. It's going to have many lines that are going to wrap, so I wanted line break mode to be word wrap, and max lines is 9. That seems to fit pretty well. You can experiment with that. You might have a different device that might need more max lines. And set the text type to HTML, so the strings that we're going to read in are HTML formatted. And give it a height request of 140. Then I have a horizontal stack layout with 3 buttons. That's going to be our first 3 buttons in the top row. And I set them to a height request of 40 and a width request of 100. And just gave it a little bit of spacing in between on the horizontal stack, just so the buttons aren't touching each other. On the background color, I used a 32-bit ARGB. So the 77 is the alpha channel, and then 99 is red, 77 is green, and 00 is blue. It gives us a semi-transparent tan color. On all those buttons, I have the clicked event set to change channel, and then I basically just copied and pasted. And really all I did was change the text for the second row to Gunsmoke, Lone Ranger, and Maverick. And then the third row, again, set the text to Rawhide, Rifleman, and Wagon Train. And then I have a lone button after that horizontal stack layout. I changed the color a little bit because it's not a TV show. It's more of just the overview. I made it saddle brown. And then finally a label at the bottom that basically says the background photo was by Beza Aaron. So that's the HTML. Let's look at the C# code. You want to make sure you're adding in collections.generic because we're going to use a list or a dictionary. So here's our dictionary called shows, and it's a new dictionary containing a string key and a string value. In the initialized component, I'm going to call load MAUI asset, and since it's an asynchronous method, I want to read that into a variable. I just called it x. I'm not going to use x, but here's our async task. This is from the about assets.txt file in the raw folder. If you look at that, it kind of gives some instructions there. Rather than reading in the whole contents, though, I'm going to open that file, create the stream reader, and then read it one line at a time and add each line, splitting it out by the vertical bar to our key and values of the shows dictionary. Here's where we change the channel. And all I'm going to do here is basically find the name of the button, set that into a string called title, use the title as the index of our dictionary as to which text to show in the label. And I'm going to use that title then in the cases for the switch. And each one I'm going to set the photo to a different photo based on the lowercase value of the title. That's my solution. I hope you enjoyed the project. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the .NET MAUI Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.